Hey guys, what's up? MadSeason here, back with another video for you. A criticism you hear about Legion quite often is that it's very grindy, with Titan forging, artifact power, and legendaries to name just a few. Well, in response, I thought it would make for a fun series to take a look at the hardest grinds throughout the game's history. Mainly reputation, but also some more unconventional stuff thrown in there as well. And before we begin here, when I say hardest, I really mean the most time consuming for the most part. A lot of the grinds in the game aren't really hard in the sense of killing tough enemies, but rather they're hard in the sense that they're hard to complete because they take so long. As many of you may have guessed, I think the most appropriate place to start are the reputations tied to the Insane title. For this one, you originally had to raise your reputation to Exalted with 7 factions, and another one to Honored. For the most part, I'll try to stick to the pre-nerf stuff since this is a video about the hardest grinds after all. A lot of this has been made easier over time, so note that this isn't a guide by any means. If that's what you're looking for, you're in the wrong place. There might be some useful bits of information here and there, but like I said, I'll be talking about the pre-nerfed state a lot, so a lot of this information will be out of date from the current game. So, the original achievement had Booty Bay, Gadget Zen, Everlook, Ratchet, Ravenholdt, the Darkmoon Faire, and the Shen'dralar factions at Exalted, and the Bloodsall Buccaneers at Honored. So we got 8 total to start off episode 1. The Shen'dralar was removed with the Cataclysm expansion, so let's start with that. This is the group of night elves that can be found inside of the library of the Darkmoon dungeon, the same place where you got the Quilsarar quest. To raise their reputation to Exalted, the best method was to get these items called Librams. You got these as drops in the Darkmoon dungeon, and they came in different forms. The Libram of Focus, Protection, and Rapidity. These were quest items, and when turned in along with other trade materials, you would get an item that enchanted your gear with bonus stats, along with Shen'dralar reputation. 500 to be exact, not counting the human racial bonus. You started neutral with them, so to get to Exalted, you needed 84 of these Librams, along with 84 black diamonds, and depending on what Librams you had, a bunch of enchanting materials and other stuff. You had the Blood of Heroes, which was a rare material you could only get in the Eastern Plagueland zone. You picked these up off the ground, and it would spawn a few elites that you had to kill or run away from. You also had the Frayed Abomination Stitchlings, which dropped from Abominations in Stratholme, and Skins of Shadow, which dropped from elites in Scholomance. And the worst part was that the Librams were unique, so you could only bring one of each at a time. Before the portable mailbox and mobile guild bank, you'd have to get your Librams, head to Darkmoon, turn in the quest, hearth back, get more Librams, and go back to Darkmoon 28 times minimum and 84 max. Have mercy. Well, I guess they did show mercy because this reputation was removed with the Cataclysm expansion and was no longer part of the Insane title. But we still have 7 others. Let's tackle the Ravenholdt first. This is a ninja faction located in the Hillsbrad Foothills zone in the Ravenholdt Manor. They spend their time getting anime haircuts and collecting heavy junk boxes. You could only get these if you were a rogue, but anyone could do the quest. So if you didn't have a rogue, you'd need to straight up buy these. You pickpocketed them off of level 50-ish enemies, and you'd turn in 5 at a time for 75 reputation. Typically, you did this just for the revered level, so that's 1400 boxes total. For neutral to revered, it was faster to kill low-level enemies. There's an enemy rogue faction called the Syndicate, and if you killed them, you got 5 rep per kill, so that was around 4200 kills total. Generally it was faster, but it really depended if others were farming there as well. Regardless though, very time consuming. Next, we have the Bloodsall Buccaneers. This is the enemy pirate faction found in the Stranglethorn Vale zone. How did you raise their reputation? Well, you killed your allies, of course. The strategy was to basically murder everything in the Booty Bay questing hub, and they would give you some reputation with the Buccaneers. The amount of kills did vary. The minimum amount of work was starting at 0 of 3000 as hostile with the Buccaneers, but it was pretty common for people to start this grind after doing all of the quests in the zone, which would give you reputation with Booty Bay, but decrease your rep with the pirates. So for most people, they actually started way in the negative at the hated reputation level, which needed 36,000 points to get out of. And you would not only be hated by the faction, but also the players since people have a hard time getting quests from dead NPCs. But as long as you persevered and committed some goblin genocide, you would eventually reach Honored after, in some cases, thousands and thousands of kills. As a reward, you got progress towards the title, a nifty set of clothes, and even a quest that gives you a pirate hat. The reason why the achievement stopped at Honored and not Exalted was because, up until a patch, most of the NPCs stopped giving reputations at that point. So realistically, that was the cap. There was, however, a single goblin in the entire game that gave your reputation past Honored. His name was Jazric, and you could find him in the Badlands zone. He actually gave 1 reputation per kill and had a 7-minute respawn timer, probably making the reputation the most hardcore to max out. Although there was no real point in going past Honored. Now you might say that it doesn't count since no one actually did it, right? Let's be real here. Come on, this is the internet. Someone actually did it. Wigwam on the Dentarg server on US killed poor Jazric 20,999 times to become Exalted. And he was followed by some others. Now that's insane. It was later changed to give 5 reputation though. But there was a catch to this. The Insane title also needed Exalted with the Steamwheedle Cartel, which consisted of the 4 goblin factions, Everlook, Gadgetsan, Ratchet, and Booty Bay. But at this point, you're hated with these factions because the only way to raise that Bloodsall reputation was to lower your rep with the cartel. So now you're in a pickle. Initially, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you could farm this rep back up by killing pirates outside of Booty Bay, but this would also of course decrease that Bloodsall reputation. And you got a very small amount of reputation per kill, so it would take thousands, maybe even tens of thousands. Although it's not required for the achievement to have all of the reps at the same time, if you wanted to keep your Bloodsall reputation intact, you would instead head back to the Darkmoon instance. In the northern wing near the end of the dungeon, there is a quest to free a goblin. You had to get a key that had a chance to drop from the many bosses in the instance. Turning it in gave you 350 reputation. He also gave a quest asking for an ogre tannin, which could be found upstairs or in a crate he leaves behind when you free him. You'd also need some trade materials. This was repeatable infinitely, and it gave you another 75 rep per turn-in. And the best part of these, it doesn't affect your Bloodsall Buccaneers rep. And another bonus was through the process of clearing to him and killing these bosses, you would also get those Librams needed for the Shen'dralar rep I mentioned earlier. So you could knock out 2 birds with 1 stone here. Anyways, lastly we have the Darkmoon Faire at Exalted. Nowadays this isn't too bad with the reworked fair, you just do the daily quests and the rep comes pretty fast. But before the fair's revamp in patch 4.3, things were much harder, and in fact this one was the hardest out of all of the reps required for the Insane title. You didn't have those daily quests where you play the carnival games for some quick rep. Instead, the main form of rep grinding was tied to the card decks. Also, the fair is only in town for 1 week out of the month, so the accessibility is also a problem. So, you of course started at neutral, and from that point to 2000 into friendly, you would do a repeatable quest turn-in that required drops called Glowing Scorpid Blood. You got this from the Silithus zone, and you turned in 10 at a time for 250 rep each from neutral to 2000 into friendly. And from this point on until Exalted, you started what's known as the card grinding. This was the worst part of the whole achievement. So, there are a handful of card decks in the game that you can turn into the fair for trinkets and other gear, but to make these decks, you need cards. They drop throughout the world, and if you were an inscriber, you could make them. They varied in quality, and getting all of the cards for the deck gave you a turning quest that gave you a trinket or an amulet, and some reputation. 350 for the epic quality decks, and 25 for the blue and green ones. So, if you had inscription, you could craft your own cards requiring a mountain of materials you got from milling herbs into inks. Or alternatively, you could just buy them off of the auction house and sell the gear if it was bind on equip. Some smart players would actually trade the item for other people's completed deck along with a bit of gold as an incentive, basically paying for the turn-in and the reputation you got from it. The amount of decks you needed to turn in of course varied depending on what quality you were doing. The max was around 1500 turn-ins if you focused on the low-level decks, and 100-ish for the purple ones. But those were very expensive. And of course throw in different rep bonuses such as the human racial, and you could do it with less. But with that, you got the insane title. Like I said, much easier these days with Shen'dralar being removed, the revamped Darkmoon, and so on. Even still, the reputations tied to this title rank at the top as the most grindy in the game. So, that's about it. That's a pretty good start to this series, I think. I was thinking of keeping these on the short side and doing 5 grinds at a time. I started with 8 because I think it would be wrong to start the series with anything other than the insane title since, as you saw, the grinding is, well, insane. In future episodes though, I'll be going into more unconventional stuff, not just reputation since I think that's a little boring. I got quite the long list already, but if you have any in particular that you'd like to suggest, let me know. As always, I hope you found the video interesting or entertaining, like it if you liked it, and thanks for watching. Peace.
Farewell for now, mortals. We hope you enjoyed today's video. See you again soon.